Welcome back, fellow spy nerds. Todd and Dave back at you with some more of The Spy, the French series, Netflix. This is one, if you didn't hear the last episode, I do recommend you backtrack a little. We're doing episode 3 and 4 of the 6-episode miniseries starring Sacha Baron Cohen about the real-life spy career of Eli Cohen. Dave, without going into too much detail, how you doing?
Good. Just chilling.
Without going into too much detail, has the show swung in a better direction for you, or is it still kind of a little off kilter, a little off course?
I'm more invested, but it hasn't switched course on me as far as my feelings about the show. But I am invested and interested in seeing what happens.
Okay. Well, I do gotta say there are a few really nice, super cool plus spy points, positive spy points to be found in these episodes. Starting with our gadget concealment strategy. This shit is tight.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
This is the best I've seen.
Are you talking about the very beginning, or are we talking about throughout episode 3 and 4?
Well, I mean we kind of see how the blender works,
right?
At the beginning, but we actually, when he operates it in the field, we actually see it's even a little more complicated how you pop it open. And I think that's really cool.
Oh, absolutely.
The pill concealment is good. Everything's really nicely done. Again, best I've seen.
And the soap, plastic explosive soap, that was fun.
So, but from there, I guess I'm just gonna skip ahead a little because this does pertain to the concealment of the gadgets. This episode is primarily about him getting across into Syria and setting up shop there, and the border crossing. He's very, very concerned that they're going to search his suitcase.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's making his moves. We'll talk a little bit more about how he sets up to cross Syria, but specifically, I guess we could run through it. I'm just going to say right now, I think it was really counterproductive, trying to bribe the guy. And then
I was just about to say that it was. I mean, we talked last episode about how over the top his, I guess, seduction techniques and charming techniques are. This was even worse because this is like a border commander, and he's still like stroking egos left and right, like, oh, I'm so feel honored to be in the presence and of such a honorable. And thanks for allowing me to come back. And then he like hands him the gold watch. I feel so honored to be here in front of someone fighting for such a wonderful country like Syria. I want you to have this watch. Like.
Now we could be looking at a culture here. I'm no expert, but we could be looking at a culture where bribery is very commonplace and even expected.
Right.
I mean, it could be a thing where it could even be the practice. The totally known practice is that they're going to hold you up for an hour and start going through their luggage until you pop up with a little cash and then you move on.
Right.
And people who know that just, but I don't know. And I don't want to say anything against, I don't want to look down my nose at cultures that have bribery as just a natural course of business.
But
that could be going on here, but yeah, you're right. It's blatant.
Yeah.
is the word I would use. And then here, especially, I really want to flag it because I think he's running the risk that they're going to take a more serious search of his briefcase or of his suitcase than they're initially planning. And he needs to have faith in how well that stuff is concealed. Trust me, they're not going to take your fucking blender apart. Or not your,
right.
What is it? It's a mixer.
something like, yeah, those like those old school ones. I don't know. I think there's probably better ones these days, but it's those the electric. Yeah, when you're making cake, they used to be like hand crank, and then they started making electric ones and stuff, and
Yeah,
that's what it looks like.
they're not going to take that thing apart.
No,
They're not gonna try lighting your soap on fire to see what happens.
right.
Um, so
I
yeah,
do like his cover though.
what's that?
So he whispers something. He asks the commander to come see him alone and to let him know that it's not worth the search. And he whispers something. We don't get to hear it as the audience, but when he gets back in the car, he's with his kind of compatriot that he's been with crossing the border. That he kind of like recruited on his way to the border. And then we actually before we even talk about the search, um, he did. I did have this in my notes. He's really bad at the charm. It's so openly like he loses focus on his mission. Like his only mission was to make a buddy so that he could cross the border, and he gets the attention of this other wealthy guy on the boat by ordering some really expensive wine. They joins him at the table. They're hitting it off, and then he asks like a question, like a really political question, and that kind of puts a sour taste in the guy's mouth. So now he has to backpedal and like put on the display. And so as like an apology for offending him, he offers to give him a ride, which I thought was clever because it set him up for the next day when he's off the dock and sees the other guy's car. He's like, oh, well, nice. Well, it was nice talking to you. And then the guy's like, well, are you still going to get a ride? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, why don't you ride with me? So he kind of played it cool after he screwed up, but that was like a big screw up. And this kind of thing seems to be like a pattern for him where he just like oversteps his bounds and loses focus on his objectives. And so back to the border crossing, his very conspicuous attempt at bribing, where you could call it subtle, gets him in trouble where they're going to search everything now. So like his whole dodge like gets him in trouble. So what he does is he takes the commander aside and whispers something. And when he gets into the car with his companion, the companion's like, look, you're risking my neck as well as yours. So you want to tell me what's going on? And he said, well, I explained to the commander that I'm a single man and I have certain needs and I have a lot of very, very graphic pornography. and that was what that covered his bribe and the whole situation. And I thought that was kind of clever, because that's that type of thing. And I understand Syria's kind of a Muslim, or not, it is a Muslim country for the most part, and so that type of stuff I think would be considered contraband, and it would kind of get him in trouble at the border. So but talking to the commander and being like, look, we're not like the enemy, I'm just like a guy and I don't want to be embarrassed, and it's not really that big of a deal. So I think it played off well after he screwed up. So it seems like he's overextending himself and then learning how to fix it, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is showing some adaptability because he does like fail to kind of get on the Sheik's good side twice, but he still manages to pull the plane up.
Yeah.
And pull it off. Pornography. I'm gonna go you one better, and it's weird because I hadn't remembered this when I thought of this. I'm thinking of something that inspired me from the near the end of the fourth episode, and this is where Dr. Bashir comes to visit him, and he had his, I don't know, his communication stuff out on his desk, and he like covered it with the coat, and I was like, "Ooh, that's not a good idea."
Right.
And I had this idea. It's actually very similar to the pornography cover. I think that I'm going to, if I ever become a spy, I'm going to keep a large purple dildo with my secret spy stuff. Okay.
All right.
the reason is, because we'll see this in all sorts of movies. Like, someone noticed you like furtively, like, they came into the room and you're like, oh shit, gotta hide this, and maybe if they notice you doing that, and they want to press the issue, they're gonna find a big purple dildo and they're just gonna say, okay, that was a mistake.
That's a very. I hope people are taking notes because I sure am. That is very good.
But
I
for sure, yeah,
like
take it
it.
a step further. Actually, have the pornography in there.
Yeah.
Why not?
hmm Absolutely. No, that's a yeah. You could keep like a fleshlight and some anal beads, couple of vibrate. That's yeah. Man, they need to hire you over at the CIA.
I can't be the first person to have thought of this.
Yeah. So they do get across the border.
And then wait,
Oh,
it
yeah,
gets
yeah.
even better. It gets even better. Inside, like I hide other shit inside the purple dildo. It also like, you know, comes apart and there's like more secret spy stuff inside.
Right.
It's a transmitter.
Yeah. Um, they do make it across the border, and we get actually kind of a extended montage. It's like the segments in the montage aren't like they're lengthier, but it's him setting up an import export business.
Yes. We get to see him doing the sort of stuff we thought was missing from the Buenos Aires episode.
Right. Yeah. Which apparently all he was doing was buying advertising. But I really liked this. This was a much the use that see this is where the type of I talked about last week. There's a lot of really good ideas in the show. This is one of my favorites. They really executed it well. How effective an import export business could be for a spy. He basically goes to like little shops in the area and starts buying out their entire inventory to export. And not only is he concealing, microfilm and communications, he's wrapping all of the product in newspapers because he notices that's what they do to protect the furniture. And when it gets to the other side, back to Mossad in Israel, they're like, the film's important, but the newspapers are like invaluable. So like, not only is he like smuggling like all of this like intelligence information hidden in like the legs and like the wedges of furniture, he's also sending them basically Syrian newspapers because it doesn't look like suspicious at all because he's basically just protecting the furniture by wrapping it in the news like yesterday's papers and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I love it. That's another of the things that that I thought are real masterful in this pair of episodes.
I will complain about one thing.
Okay.
Just more about him just overextending himself. They told him not to communicate until after 8 weeks.
Right.
And he just can't help himself like a kid in a candy shop. 2 weeks. So I definitely want to spot some minus spy points.
This inspired me to go ahead. I got too curious and went to the wiki to read the entry on Eli Cohen, and they don't say anything there. I mean, the show is obviously most likely drawing off of additional sources. Eli Cohen is very famous in Israel. There's streets named after him and shit. This isn't the first time somebody's made a movie version of his story.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a lot of books about him out there. But anyways, just from Wiki, they never mentioned anything there about him being like especially risk-taking or particularly bold. So just throwing out there that that stuff might be. However, I don't know. I doubt that it's just completely made up
right.
by the writer here. It seems like he's doing a lot of things to try to keep things pretty faithful, I guess,
right.
to the original dude. Um, but yeah, and then his other oh well, and then it also goes to this. He's befriending of he sees an opportunity and takes it to befriend the nephew of the commander in chief of Syria,
Mhm.
um, which that's the title they give him. I'm not sure what rank that is exactly in their government. It sounds pretty goddamn high.
Right.
Um, of course, for us, the president is the commander in chief. So, I don't think he's talking about the president. So they must be separate people. But that's another thing. Like he wasn't supposed to do,
Right.
and uh, uh, we're having fun still calling Noah Emmerich Stan Beeman. You know
Yeah.
that Alexander Dig, Dr. Bashir. But yeah, Beeman is not thrilled about that. He's like, this is not part of the job. His job is to stay low and just be eyes and ears, like avoid notice.
Mhm.
And it's like the opposite what he's doing, and just and right. And then there's like with the opportunity to go to the Golan Heights, basically like the sort of the front between Syria and Israel. Here's another case where like now Beeman saying, oh, it's really dangerous, and then his boss is saying, well, he's your guy. If you don't feel comfortable about it, then don't have him go. And I'm really just I'm kind of losing a little patience with the show as far as the inconsistency
Mhm.
uh, of Beeman and his boss in risk assessment
Mhm.
from incident to incident. Um, just all their scenes, it seems like each scene is written in isolation from the others. They don't, I'd rather have a more consistent, like one of them's overly cautious and the other one's maybe a little pushier.
Right.
Um, but yeah, they just kind of just keep going back and forth on that kind of stuff. Um, but the nephew is an interesting character that's going to carry forward uh, through both episodes and actually have an interesting different arc in episode 5. Sounds like you're about to talk.
Yeah, I like this character. I think he's the best character for what he's supposed to be as far as like, filmmaking goes. He's the nephew of the commander in chief of the Syrian army, and if you know anything about people in power, their kids, nieces, and nephews are kind of entitled, like party type, like going out, always having a good time type of thing, and he's constantly playing pranks, and he like falls in love with our charming Ellie, and who's a single playboy type of thing, and they're just always living the life. You know, there's these little moments that really like build his character of just that type of a personality. Like, the first night he stays over at Ellie's, he's like drunk off his face, wakes up in the morning, and Ellie wakes up to a gun in his face, and it's basic Mozzie just playing a prank, like pretending he doesn't remember anything that happened the night before, and then like Ellie comes back with a cute like, oh, I'm really angry, oh, but it was a joke, type of thing. Like I thought the show did pretty well about this, even though I didn't care for Ellie's recruitment of him, but just Mazzie's character is a lot of fun. Like, and I thought he was like the best character that was built.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like you can tell that he is not getting has never gotten enough attention, and who knows where his father is, but
Yeah.
um, he's definitely not getting enough attention from his uncle,
Uh-huh.
and so he's kind of turned into someone that's trying to fill that need of getting attention by trying to get attention from everyone else
Yeah.
around
Oh,
him.
absolutely. And probably loves the pranks and the fast life to get that attention. Yeah, absolutely.
Right on. So, blurring the lines a little between episode 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Um, that's going to leverage also into being able to meet and kind of, make a at least a favorable impression, if not an instant fast friendship with the actual commander in chief,
Hmm.
um, which is, going to be quite obviously come into play somehow and be even more valuable to him. He has run into his old friend, in quotes, Dr. Bashir.
Yeah.
Um, the and that plays into a nice setup at the end, which I guess we could save for the end of our talking here. Uh, the Golan Ridge thing was legit, and in the wiki, it's pointed out as being like one of his most genius moves. The fact that he was able to get up there and get so much information about the extent and of the fortifications, of the type of ordnance that they had in play, and then of course there's the eucalyptus tree thing.
I mean, oh my God, yeah, what a huge accomplishment. I mean, like, if someone was able to just charm their way and stroke the egos up the chain that far to the commander in chief, actually set foot at the bunkers, see what's going on, and on top of that, the eucalyptus trees like was a genius idea. They practically placed the trees at every location. So I mean, that's just like huge, right?
It's massive, yeah, yeah.
One thing did bug me though, the machine gun scene. I'll bet you this wasn't in the history story, and it was just like a creative decision. What do you think the point of that was?
Just yeah, nail biting.
Yeah, for the audience, like, do you think like the commander was trying to test his loyalty or anything?
Well, it seems clear that he wasn't.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. And then the way he brushes it off, do you want to start a war? Well, that's a funny joke because they are kind of. I mean, well, I guess they're not at war exactly.
Right.
Um, but uh, yeah, I mean, so if it would have been a really bad thing for him to have shot someone, then the general is really being incredibly irresponsible in a way that
Right.
doesn't seem doesn't seem apt to his character.
Absolutely.
And me, I think you really can't. I mean, I think you really can get out of that with just saying like, I'm sorry, I've never killed anyone before. I'm not a soldier. I mean, it does say I'm not a soldier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sorry. I've never killed anyone before.
Right.
Um, it's just this is just not for me. Um, Another option would just be, miss,
Yeah.
because
Right.
also you're not a soldier.
Right.
Just kind of, squeeze off a couple shots a few yards to the right of the tractor.
Yeah. Something like that. Right. I
Yeah.
I don't know. That kind of ripped me out of the moment. But
Yeah, I didn't like that part.
yeah.
Mm. He's gonna continue. He's nothing if not consistent.
Uh huh.
He's gonna go completely off script again. Go monkeying around the base.
Oh, that's right. After the tour, they're in the base, right?
Uh-huh.
And it looks like there's something heating up.
It does, but I don't think he knew that before he started sneaking around. So he didn't really have a reason to go sneaking around, or at least I didn't catch it.
Right.
Um, this is really not his job.
Yeah.
He's, I mean, all the stuff he does, and it's just increasingly taking additional risk after additional risk. I mean, maybe sneaking around to see what's up. Okay, that's one thing. Then like grabbing a radio and trying to use it and communicate that there's an attack about to happen. And is there an attack about to? Well, I don't know. I guess there is.
That's what it looks
Um,
like with the trucks going around and stuff. Um, yeah, you would think that they would be intercepting communications, right? I'd like to hope uh, an army of this caliber would have the capacity to intercept signals, especially
mm,
if they're being backed by Russia.
yeah, I don't, I definitely don't know anything about how walkie-talkies work,
Right.
or a field radio, or whatever it is. But then, on top of that, okay, so he can't get a signal. Now he's jumping on the back of a truck, riding all the way up to the front, and then he's running and taking pictures. I mean, I hate to like just run through everything that, assume everyone saw the episode, but it's madness.
Yeah.
And the risk reward here thing is just like completely off, because his long-term value is so good. And even, I mean, if he gets caught, even if he successfully like warns them about the attack but then gets captured, like that's a big net loss.
Huge. Yeah.
Huge.
And it's going to put them more on the alert, expecting other spies. So it's just going to make it more difficult to get more people in, right?
So yeah, I mean, if I hadn't been on the bandwagon of this guy really needs to have a stern lecturing before now, it's way past time, in my opinion, at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
And then
Oh, yeah. And how does he get the message across after he's jumped on buses, done his parkour? There's some random Israeli farmer with a cow
sure.
that he tells, and then the farmer drives his tractor over to like some IDF base or something. I hope that's what happened. If that's what happened, that just by chance there was a Israeli farmer looking for his cow, and that's how the message got back to Mossad and the generals of the IDF. That would make me happy. Stories like that in history always get me all giddy inside. But
Sure. Yeah, no, I would like that part. It's the jumping on the truck
yeah,
and going in and getting that close
yeah.
kind of thing. That's just way out of the pale for me. Um, got a very interesting setup sequence at the end of the episode with Bashir. But is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we get there and close this out?
Um, there was this whole thing with what's his name, Maski, Mazi, turning out to be gay. This came out like way out of left field, and I'm not sure if this is just them making sure that they get history into the story, or if this was just kind of like a free gimme thrown in Ellie's lap that he had, because he just came back from running around, had like a cut on his leg, and like, Mazi being trained as a soldier to notice things like, hey, why are you all sweaty and dirty? Where were you? And hey, why the fuck is your leg cut? And like, hey, you know, and you see when they're driving away, you start to see. I guess the show is letting us know that maybe Mozzie's starting to put things together because
Wheels are turning. Yeah.
right, because the radio announces like some thwarted attack, right? And yeah, and but now Ellie has this secret of him being gay, and Mozzie's kind of suspicious. So I'm not quite sure what the purpose of all of that was. Um, like it like they made a really big deal about it that kind of was off rhythm from the show. So I'm not sure if it's kind of like in Monuments Men where they were just trying to get as many historical pieces in there, or if uh
I disagree with I'm on the other side of the fence from you on this one.
yeah.
I think it's very good just as a story element to have that in place so that Mozzie has a strong incentive to feel that he can trust Ellie.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Since Ellie is not gonna flip out about the kind of subtle homosexual overtures.
Right. Yeah. Um, it was a little confusing at first, but then when Mozzie kind of talks to him in I guess the base room quarters thing, it becomes more clear that that's what was all these things leading up to. And yeah, no, I could see that. Maybe I just
I
didn't
mean,
like
if you
the way it
think
was
about, if
executed.
you think about it, in this culture, in this time, in
Yeah,
just about any culture,
yeah, it didn't matter where you were in the '70s. Yeah,
yeah, but for sure, for the time or culture, like right now, Mozzie, like it's something that would be like that fear of being exposed would be using up 90% of his brain.
yeah.
you know,
That
I mean,
okay.
he'd be completely terrified and preoccupied with that to the extent of, totally missing other stuff. I mean, I, I guess I don't know if he buys the idea that, oh, it's just an old wound that opened up, because that doesn't explain why your
Ripped.
pant leg is torn.
Yeah.
So I I guess my favorite interpretation of that is again just that at this moment, his mind is in kind of a panic mode about being called out as a homosexual, and that he's just blind to anything else that's going on.
That makes sense. That's a really good point. I'm just gonna chalk it up to like the other things that have been going on in this show that kind of irk me as far as execution goes. You bring up a good point that this is like a nice piece of information to one build trust, but also leverage. And you're right, he's so panicked in the '70s as well as in this type of a culture and in a military, and being the nephew of such a big, you know, political figure, that would put him in a panic mode. You've convinced me. That's a
Okay.
really good point.
All right, cool. Anything else before the twist?
Yeah, the big twist. What a twist! Yeah. No, I'm good. Let's get into the twist.
This is a goddamn good twist.
Yeah.
I promised you something special for the end of episode 4. How did what happens? And I mean, I assume everyone's seen it, but how did this hit you?
I liked it. You did promise me a big twist, and this is a very big twist. Um, so Bashir, who's had a stick up his ass against Ellie the whole time. Well, I guess we don't really see how he interacts with everyone else. So it's for his, counterintelligence security measures, he probably was like that with everybody. But he shows up to his house. Oh, that's right. No, why don't you talk about the coat before we get there?
Ooh.
He shows up to the house, and Ellie's in the middle of transmitting Morse code with his devices, and just throws a coat over.
Well, that was the part. That was the part where I thought of the dildo.
Oh yeah. Let me just toss this dildo on top of the table.
You're not gonna see anything else but purple dildo.
Yeah.
The other stuff, what? Oh God, there's like wires and shit. Oh, I don't even want to fucking.
It's a plug-in.
I don't even want to know what's going on here.
Yeah.
Just putting the coat over. I mean, sweep it into your desk drawer or something.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he didn't have time. He could have just been like, "Sorry, I didn't hear the door. I was taking a dump. I was taking put your shit away." That's
For sure.
Yeah, it was terrible. Anyway, well, the door opens and there's Bashir with his stick up his ass again, and this is like a terrifying moment for everybody. And he gets him in his car. It's even more terrifying, and then makes Ellie put on a black hood, so he doesn't know where they're going. And all of a sudden they're at this spot, and there's this famous author who apparently is what is he, exiled from the current Syrian government?
I'm certain he's a historical figure of note. Must be like one of the big thinkers behind. It's the Ba'ath Party that we know of,
Mm-hmm.
from news in our lifetimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Ba'ath Party that's out of favor in Syria at this time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's who Ellie's old friend from Buenos Aires is in that party. And so yeah, all this stuff, I'm sure, like, lines up nicely historically. But I guess, it's that combination. A revolution is fought with both the pen and the sword. and
Oh,
so
yeah.
and so those are, I guess, these two guys, this general, and like we said, it's a twisty cliffhanger thing, because we don't know where this is going to go, but essentially he's being recruited as an agent of the very people that, or at least one faction of the very people that he's here to observe. And what a stroke of cool luck that is.
Absolutely.
And we'll get to I'm excited to talk about next week where that takes us, because essentially this twist is not a small one.
No.
Episode 5 is going to take the story in a radically different direction than what it's been so far. I'm really excited for you to talk to you about it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, with this kind of a twist, I'm like I said, I'm invested now, so I do want to know what happens. So yeah, till next week.
All right.
Yeah, for those of you that haven't heard the previous episode, well, for those of you that haven't seen the show, it's on Netflix. And if you want to listen to our previous episode, or if you haven't subscribed to us, just search Spies Like Us podcast on any podcast app that you use. And please drop us a line. Let us know how we're doing, or if you have any questions or any suggestions for movies or shows we should look at. Go to spieslikeus.net, and you can shoot us an email on the contact page, or just tweet us, spies_like_us, or on Facebook, facebook.com/spieslikeUspodcast.
The preceding transmission sampled the song Enter the Party by Kevin MacLeod, and sound effects from freesound.org. Attributions and links are found at spieslikeus.net.